Hi, I'm Patrick Ness. I'm talking to you today on Serendipity Reviews, and I'm going to talk about my new book, The Rest of Us Just Live Here. And I've been sent some questions, and they wanted me to do the thing where I pretend that I've including the question in the answer, but I like Viv's questions, and I'd rather do it this way, because this way you get to kind of hear her, and it's not just me gabbling on. So these are questions from Viv, which I like. Can you give me a one-line pitch for The Rest of Us Just Live Here? I tell a lie, I don't actually like that question, but one-line pitch. It's a story of the ones who aren't the chosen one. It's the story of all us unchosen, because I think we feel more like that than the chosen. When starting a new novel, what do you do first? Do you research an idea or go straight into the first draft? I tend to go straight into the first draft because writers will use any excuse under heaven to procrastinate, and research can just be an excuse to just wait and wait, to not start, to not start, to not start. Starting is so important. You gotta start, and then you gotta finish. And if you can do those two things, you got a book at the end, and that sounds simple, but both are really difficult. So I go straight in, is my answer. Then she asks, can you write anywhere, or do you have to sit down at a specific time and place to write? I need quiet, and I need a block of time. But if I've got those two things, I can write pretty much anywhere. I've written on trains and I've written on planes. I prefer writing at the London Library or at my house, just because I can sit down and I can have a sense of occasion of this is the time I'm going to write, and I can, look away from email, look away from chores. But there's no wrong way to do this. That's the important thing. There's no wrong way to do this. So whatever you need. If you need music, if you can write anywhere, that's great. If you need quiet, that's what I need. I've written a couple, so yeah. What was it like being on the film set of A Monster Calls and seeing your book brought to life? God, that's amazing. Oh man, this is so amazing. I feel so lucky. God, I can't even tell you. I feel so lucky. I'm knocking wood. I feel so lucky to, stuff that came out of my head, like the scene where Connor destroys the sitting room. I mean, that's the first idea I had about the book, and to see that on screen and to see it acted out and designed and filmed, and yeah, that's amazing. It's really, really amazing. And you asked the question of if I was starstruck by Sigourney Weaver and Liam Neeson. I don't really get starstruck, but they were both such nice people. They really, really, really were. Liam Neeson is very funny and very welcoming to everybody, and Sigourney Weaver is just as nice and professional as exactly who you want her to be, and so admirable. But I tell you, I don't get starstruck by people like that. I'll tell you who I do get starstruck by, and I get starstruck by people who were important to me when I was a teen. So you should have seen me the first time I had any contact with Judy Blume. It's absolutely true. I really, that's who I get starstruck by. People who were important to me when I was 13, 14, because that's when they really matter, really, really matter. So, cool. Who are my favorite UKYA authors? I always say the late, great Mal Peet. He's a good friend of mine. He died earlier this year, and his books are wonderful. Really, really wonderful, and I think he's a little underread. I wish more people read his books. He's an author that other authors adore, and that's always a good sign. So I would definitely say Mal Peet. Who else? I love the David Allman books. Who else do I like? I don't know. YA is so vast and rich now. I mean, I got so many friends in it that I don't want to name any friends and leave other friends out. So I don't know. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. I mean, and you also asked who do I think will be rising stars of 2015, and I would say a friend of mine. I'd say Nan Pratt, who we share an editor and a publisher. I'd say her. I think that's a really good person to keep an eye out on. Nan she's a good person too. Much nicer than me. You ask, what was the last book you read? The last book I finished was A History Maker by Alistair Gray, the great Scottish writer. Total one-off. Books aren't like anybody else. But I read really widely. I read a book I'd really recommend that's coming out next year is called Lily and the Octopus by a writer called Stephen Rawley. It's not YA, but you would love it. You will love it. You will absolutely cry and love it. It's about a guy who's dachshund gets a tumor, and the guy sees it as an octopus that talks to him. And that sounds crazy, but the book is so moving and so funny. So watch out for next year. It's called Lily and the Octopus. What was the best piece of writing advice I was ever given? You know, I talk about writing advice a lot, but I think I'll say the best piece of advice, full stop, I was ever given, which was somebody simply asked, what would you do if you weren't afraid? You know, if I was worried about something, they just ask simply, if you weren't afraid, what would you do? And that's been a lifesaver. What would you do if you weren't afraid? If you weren't afraid to write a book, what would you do? Well, you'd write a book. If you weren't afraid to ask that boy or girl out, what would you do? You'd ask them out. And what would you do if you weren't afraid? So that's the advice I give. What would you do if you weren't afraid? So, yeah, terrific questions. I like it very much. So thank you very much, Viv from Serendipity Reviews. I think I got to all of them. And yeah, and the book comes out on the 27th of August. And yeah, I hope you like it.